Kakadosh Boker Or Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Daf Nun Amud Aleph 50a1. We were just speaking about right now the machloket. What is stricter, sekila or sirifa? The first mandama, which is Tanakama, said sekila is more chamur because of avodah zarah and because of megadef, which means that somebody that blesses Hakadosh Baruch Hu does avodah zarah, they get sekila. So obviously that has to be the worst of all the death penalties, because it's kofer ba'ikar. The next mandama, which Rabbi Shimon, he said no, sirifa is worse. Why? Right? You have a bat kohen. When a bat kohen comes mechalel bet aviyah, she gets sirifa. So that's the worst. So says the Gemara, Kasavre Rabbanan, right? The rabbis hold, Nesua yotza lisrefa velo arusa. So he says only a bat kohen nesua gets srefa, but not an arusa. So since the Torah came and it says bat kohen arusa, so it's mashma, right? Beskila, shma mina sekila chamura. That means like this. If you remember, we brought down that bat kohen, we said that she gets sekila, whether it's nesua or arusa. Here, according to the Tanakama, he holds no. Nisua gets sirefa. Arusa gets like a regular arusa. What does a regular arusa get when she commits adultery? Forget about a kohen, a bat kohen. Regular arusa, right? What does she get if she commits adultery? Sekila, right? Sekila. If she's married woman, she gets chenek. If she's arusa, she gets sekila. So one second. Listen to what's going on. If it's a bat kohen nisua, so then you give her sirefa. But if it's a bat kohen arusa, now she gets sekila. So now 1 second. So what does that prove to you? That proves to you that sekila is worse than sirefa. Because if you're going to tell me that sirefa was worse, always keep her by sirefa.
What?
Ken. Lama lo?
Because punishment for her, if he nesua, srefa.
Exactly.
If he arusa, the
So says now the Gemara, right? Kasavre Rabbanan. So the rabbis hold nesua that goes out to sirefa, right? But not an arusa. So the fact that arusa does not get sirefa, but rather she gets sekila, so it's mashma she went up a level, just like by regular not bat kohen. In ze eshet ish regila nesua chenek ve'az ze ole ba'arusa, it goes up by an arusa, it goes to sekila. So too by a bat kohen you get sekila nesua. Aval im ze arusa bat kohen, it goes to sekila. So therefore sekila is higher up than serefa, right? So now that we just said this, now they say sekila chamura misaif. We know that sekila is going to be more chamur than saif. Why? Sheken nitzna lemegadef ulovdei kochavim may chumra kedamran. So he says obviously because meaning it has to be that sekila is much worse than hereg. Hereg, by the way, is by the sword, which is saif. So he says why? Because it was given to a megadef and ulovdei kochavim. Says the Gemara the opposite. Saif is chamur sheken nitan l'anshei nedachat. When you have a city that the entire city do avodah zarah, the majority of the city do avodah zarah. So what happens? They get saif, they get hereg. So says the Gemara, "Umay chumra shekem amun aved." There, their money, everything goes to waste. Everything goes to. So therefore, maybe saif is worse than sekila. So says the Gemara, "Amarta eze koach merubeh." He says, which koach of the sin is worse? Koach hamadiach or koach anidach? Is it koach hamadiach, which means the one that's madiach the anshein anidachat, or anidach, right, of the anshein anidachat? However, koach hamadiach, meaning the one that's madiach, is worse. Everyone knows what madiach is? You have mesitu mediach. Mesitu mediach is somebody that comes and convinces other people to do avodah zarah. So he's called mesitu mediach. So who's worse? The city that they did the avodah zarah, because they were convinced to do avodah zarah, or the one that's convincing other people to do avodah zarah? So obviously you're going to tell me it's the one that's convincing other people to do avodah zarah. So he says, V'tanya madichei ganidachat, they get sekila. Meaning, even from the proof that you wanted to bring that ki'ilu, that ira nidachat, the entire city gets saif, hereg, bimkom sekila, he says, yeah, but what about the madiach? Mesitu madiach. The madiach gets sekila. So therefore, you see that still sekila is much more strict. Okay? Next, sekila, chamura mechenek. Sekila is more strict than chenek. Just like we said. Adraba says the Gemara the opposite. Chenek is more chamur. When somebody hits their father and the mother, and it makes a bruise, what happens? They get chenek. So for chenek, umay chumra, sheken hukash kevodan lichvod makom. Just the kavod of kibud avayim was hukash to kavod of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, it comes out that chenek should be more chamur than sekila. So answers the Gemara, midavke rachmana larusa bat Yisrael mikal nusua bat Yisrael mechenek l'skila shvanim l'skila chemura. 1 second. A regular bat Yisrael, right? What does she get if she commits adultery? Chenek. When you come and you tell her that if she's an urusa, she gets sekila and not chenek, it means that sekila was more chamur. And therefore, since sekila was more chamur, that's why obviously sekila is going to be more chamur than chenek. Okay? So he comes and he says, right, like this. So now it says the Gemara, Tzerefa is more chamur than Saif. Sheken nitral bat kohen shazinta. Right? It's given to the bat kohen that she's mezana. Umay chumra, what's the chumra? Because mechalele betavia. Says the Gemara, Adra, but the opposite. Saif should be more chamur because it's given to Yirani Dachat. Umay chumra, because their money gets completely destroyed. So answers the Gemara, Ne'emar avia beskila, Ne'emar avia b'sefa. It says avia by Tzerefa and sekila. We're talking about a gzera shava. Okay, this is talking about avia by sekila and avia by Tzerefa. Ma avia amur beskila, skila chamura b'saif. So to avia amur b'sefa, Tzerefa chamura b'saif. You know where it says avia? It says avia by bat kohen. Et avia im mechalelet. And it says avia by the nara murasa. So since it says avia by both, just like the avia by the sekila, it's sekila is more chamur than saif. So to the avia by serefa is more chamur than saif. Then it says serefa is more chamur than chenek. Why? Shekenitala bat kohen shazinta is given to a bat kohen that she was mizana. My chumra, we just said she's mechalelet bet avia. Says the Gemara Adra, but the opposite. Chenek is more chamur, but it's given to the one that hits the father and the mother. And what's the chumra? Because hukash kvoda lekvoda makom. So answers the Gemara midavke rafmana lenisua bat kohen mikal nisua bat Yisrael mechenek letzrefa shmamina srefa chamura. From the fact that a regular bat Yisrael gets chenek, and you took it out of a regular bat Yisrael chenek and you gave her srefa, that's a proof that srefa is worse than chenek. Okay? Until here we're clear? It's a very simple shakla v'talya. Basically, what we're trying to do is we have the four of them, and we're trying to find out which one is the most strictest. So until now, we proved why the sekila is more stricter than serefa, and what was the svara that serefa would be more strict from serefa, even though we disproved it. Then we went to the next one. Serefa is more strict than saif, than chenek, and each one we're trying to prove. Okay. Now we're going to saif and chenek, the last two. Okay, so we just proved sekila is more than serefa, and serefa is worse than all the rest as well. Now we're going to go to the next one. The next one now is saif. 1 second, but there's a machloket. Rabbi Shimon Tanakama. According to Rabbi Shimon, saif ze yoter garua mi chenek. According to Tanakama, chenek yoter garua mi saif. Hereg. Ken, hereg. Okay? So, saif is more chamur than chenek. Why? Right? If right now it was given to the Yirani Dachat, so therefore, and what's the chumrah shekem mamona mavad? All the money is destroyed. So that's a proof that hereg is yuter chamur than chenek. Says the Gemara Adra, but the opposite. Chenek is more chamur. Why? Because you give it to somebody that hits the father and the mother. And what's the chumrah? Ukash kvodam lekvod makom. We keep on saying the same thing. And so the Gemara filu achi pashut b'keredifi. Said no, but still, even if you're going to tell me that the one that hits the parents gets chenek, but the one that got the saif is more chamur because he was kofer ba'ikar. That's what it means when he says keeps on going, right? He went to his kofer ba'ikar. Okay, and therefore that's how we said that saif is more chamur than chenek. Now we have to understand Rabbi Shimon, 2 dots. Okay? Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon says the exact opposite. Serefa chamura miskila sheken idav bat kohen shezinta. Umay chumra sheken mechalelet tetavia. If you remember, we just said serefa is worse than sekila. Why? It's given to the bat kohen shezinta. And she's mechalelet tetavia. Says the Gemara Adra, but the opposite. Sekila chamura sheken idav megadef kokovim. Right? It was given to megadef, to the one that blesses Hashem, and the one that does avodah zarah. My chumra, what's the chumra? Sheken poshet yadav b'akar. He was kafar b'ikar. And so the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon letame. Rabbi Shimon goes according to the Amar that he says, achat arusa ve'achat nesua, whether it's an arusa or a nesua, yeah, he comes and he says, right, whether it's going to be an arusa or a nesua, yatsa li srefa, she gets, right, srefa. Okay? That means according to Shidat Rabbi Shimon, which is not halacha like that, by the way, apparently, right? This is going to be in the Maimoniyot, right? In the Rambam. So according to the Rambam, we pass like Chachamim. which means that even by a bat kohen, it's only bat kohen nisu'ah that gets serefa. If it's arusa, she gets sekila. That's the psak halacha. There's a little tiny aleph on the top of the page, right, where it says nisu'ah yatzalit serefa v'lo arusa. Right, that's shitat chachamim, and that's how we pass it. She nisu'ah. Im ze arusa, she gets sekila, just like a regular arusa. So it comes out that according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, since the Bat Kohen always gets it, whether it's Arusa or Nesua, always gets Serefa, so therefore he says, Bat Kohen, right? Miklal Urusa Bat Yisrael, Miskalal Serefa, Shemamina Serefa Chamura. So the fact that means basically now you have the opposite proof. If according to Rabbi Shimon, she always gets Serefa, so that's a proof that Serefa is more Chamur than Sekila. Because when she was a regular Arusa, what does she get? Sekila. Now that she's a Bat Kohen, she gets Serefa. 1 second. So it means the serefa is yoter gerua misekila. So that's a proof of Rabbi Shimon. Shema mina serefa chamura. Right? That's the shita of Rabbi Shimon. Okay, again, we don't paskin like that, but that's the shita of Rabbi Shimon. Okay? By the way, I think I brought down to you guys when we were learning the Kinya Masechta, I think I brought you shitat Rabbi Shimon. I think so. Again, we brought it, I think, once to just like, speaking whatever it is. But technically, this is shitat Rabbi Shimon. It's not shitat Chachamim. Okay? Next. Serefa chamura mechenek. How do we know serefa is worse than chenek? Shekenitan al bat kohen shezinta. It's given to bat kohen. My chumra, just like we said, she's mechalel lebetavia. Says the Gemara adra, but the opposite. Chenek should be more chamur than serefa. Shekenitan al makavi vimo. You hit the father and the mother, and you get a wound, and then you give them a wound. You get chenek. Umay chumra shekenu kash kvodam lechvod makom. Says the Gemara midafka lerachmana lenesua bat kohen miklal nesua bat Israel mechenek l'serefa shemamina serefa chamura. A regular bat Yisrael, when she's zinta, what does she get? Zinta, when she does znut. Znut is immorality. When a regular bat Yisrael, a regular woman, she does znut, what does she get? Chenek. When it's a bat kohen, you took her out of the chenek and you gave her serefa. So that's a proof that serefa is worse than chenek. Okay? Next, serefa is going to be worse than saif, than hereg. Why? Why? It's given to the Bat Kohen that she was mizana, that she had znut. And what is the chumrah? Just like we said, she's defaming her father, the house of her father. Says the Gemara Adra, but the opposite, saif should be worse. The sword is worse. Why? Because it's given to Ansheir Anidacha, to the people that they did the entire city, that they did Avodah Zarah. Umay chumrah, what's the chumrah? Their money goes to waste, right? We destroy all their money, all their property. So says the Gemara, Amarta v'chieze koach meruba, koach madiach or koach nidach. We said the same answer that we said before. What is worse? The one that gets convinced to do Avodah Zarah or the one that's convincing other people to do Avodah Zarah? Obviously, right? Nuna Mubet, 50b. Heve Omer, I'm going to say, Hamadiach, the one that's convincing other people to do Avodah Zarah. Kalva Chomer then. Uma chenek shechamur misayif. If chenek is worse than saif, and serefa chamura mimenu, right? Because again, according to Rabbi Shimon, right? According to Rabbi Shimon, chenek is worse than saif. Not like Tanakama. Tanakama said that saif is worse than chenek. You remember? One more time. According to Tanakama, right, we said sekila, serefa, hereg, v'chenek. According to Rabbi Shimon, serefa is more strict than sekila, and hereg is more strict. Chenek is more strict than hereg. Right, because you switch. Basically, you switch each one. You switch. You flip it. So he says, Kalvachomer, just like chenek is more strict than hereg. Again, there's only according to Rabbi Shimon, serefa chamura mimenu, and serefa is still more strict. So saif, which is less, lo kol sheken, obviously then it's a kol sheken. It's a kol sheken. Obviously, it's going in order. Okay. Next, sekilat's chamura mechenek. Right? He says sekila is going to be more chamur than chenek because it's written by megadef uve'avodah zarah. What's the chumra kada amran? Adarabah. Chenek is more chamur. Sheken ital makeimo ve'vivu. My chumra. Sheken ukash kodam lekvod makom. Meaning, chenek should be worse than sekila. Because chenek, right, was given to the one that hits the father and mother and makes a wound. And therefore, they're hukash kodam lekvod makom. And so the Gemara, for the fact that they took out an Arusa Bat Yisrael, that she was instead of a Nesua Bat Yisrael, and they took her from chenek to sekila, it's a proof that sekila is much more strict than chenek. Sekila is worse than saif. Shkenital al magadef. This is, by the way, this is a chazara already. This is mamash chazara. Now what we're doing the exact same that we mentioned before. If you plug it back in, it's the exact same. Sekila is more chamur than saif, than the sword, because it was given to the Megadef, the Avodah Zarah. Adrabah, the opposite. Saif is more chamur, was given to Ida Nidachat. Umay chumra, shkem amunam aved. The money gets wasted. And so the Gemara, which one is worse? The koach merubeh or koach hamadiach? The one that gets convinced to do the avera, which are all the people, or the one that's convincing them to do the avera, or koach nidach. So he says, you're going to say koach madiach, the one that's convincing other people to do the avera. So it's a kavach chomer, just like chenek, which is more chamur misaif. According to Rabbi Shimon, sikila is more chamur than it. Saif, which is going to be more kal than chenek, lo kol shken. Kol shken then. Fine. Chenek is going to be more chamur than saif, right? So what does that mean? How do we know the chenek is worse than saif? Because it's given to the makeh mo. And what is the chumrah that we already mentioned? That what? That if a person comes and hits the parents, their kavod is ukash to kavod makom. Says the Gemara Adra, but the opposite. Saif is more chamur shekenitan shani yachat. And what's the chumrah? That their money was going to waste. So says the Gemara, Marta v'chizim koach merubeh. Which one's worse? Koach hamadiach or koach hanidach? The one that's convincing others to do avodah zarah, or the ones that are doing the avodah zarah? Again, you're going to say it's koach hamadiach. The Shimon omen bechenek. So the fact that Rabbi Shimon says it's with chenek and not with saif, that shows you the chenek is worse than saif. Okay, because basically Rabbi Shimon says you don't give them sekila, you give them chenek. So it means you went up a level. So that's a proof that chenek is worse than saif. Margala bepume de Rabbi Yochanan. It was a custom that Rabbi Yochanan used to say, Na'ara me'orasa, right? Whether it's what about if you have a Na'ara me'orasa, which is a bat kohen? So one more time, you have a bat kohen, but she's an Na'ara me'orasa. So it's both. It's me'orasa, it's right. It's a rusa and a bat kohen. Shezinta, so she should get sekila. Rabbi Shimon says she gets serefa. Zinta me'avia, right? Beskila. If it was a regular bat Israel, right? So she gets sekila. Rabbi Shimon omer serefa, which means like this. One more time. According to Rabbi Shimon, since Rabbi Shimon holds that serefa is the worst, so therefore each time that's the worst. So one more time. Nara me'orasa. So what does she get? So according to Tanakama, Nara me'orasa, sekila. What about bat kohen? Nara me'orasa, sekila. According to Rabbi Shimon, what does a bat kohen get? Serefa. It's the worst punishment. So Na'ara bat kohen gets serefa. What about a regular Na'ara me'orasa? Serefa. Because basically it's always going to be the worst punishment. So when instead of the sekila, you're putting serefa. So says the Gemara, Michael Mashlam, what does the chidush of Rabbi Yochanan come to teach you? Le Rabbanan, he's coming to teach you that according to Rabbanan, Nesua yatsa li serefa v'lo l'rusa. Right? That a Nesua, which is a Nesua bat kohen, she came out to a serefa, but not a rusa bat kohen. But the rusa bat kohen, she still gets a sekila. And according to Rabbi Shimon, achat rusa v'achat nesua yatsa lisrefa. Whether it's a rusa or nesua, she always gets serefa. But time of my, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon? Mishum de Rabbanan. According to the Rabbanan, it's because sekila is more chamura. But according to Rabbi Shimon, serefa is chamura. Nafkamina, who's going to be mitchayev shte mitot bedin? Remember that when a person gets two mitot bedin, what do you always give them? The stricter of the two punishments. So for here, that's what we're saying. The stricter of the two punishments. Okay, my Rabbi Shimon. What is exactly Rabbi Shimon exactly? So he says the time was learned on the right side. Rabbi Shimon, when Shimon says, Shne klalot ne'emru bebat kohen. There were two klalot that were said by the bat kohen. One to do with the nesua and one to do with, right? The klalot here means like a kolelim, like shte klalas. That was written by a bat kohen. What does it say? How does it translate? General rules. Generalizations. Two klalas that were brought down by the bat kohen. Whether she's Nesua or Arusa. So he says, Bevat Kohen velo Bevat Yisrael. Is it only by Bat Kohen and not Bat Yisrael? Eima, you have to say Af Bevat Kohen, even in a Bat Kohen. Veotzia Katuv, Nesua Miklal Nesua, Arusa Miklal Arusa. So therefore, when we're talking about the Bat Kohen, we're changing it from the Bat Yisrael, whether it's by a Nesua, right, or by an Arusa. Okay? So he comes and he says, Ma Ketshiotzia Katuv Nesua Miklal Nesua Lachmid. Just like when it took the Nesua, take it out to be Mahmid, so too when it was taking out from the Katuv, from Arusa, it was taking out from Arusa to be Mahmid. Let's zoom out. Doctor, and right, listen carefully. You have a regular Bat Yisrael. Right? Regular Bat Yisrael. She comes, she commits adultery. Zinta. Right? Znut. Remember, comes that's the word. Znut. Zana. Zanta. So she commits adultery. What does she get? Chenek. Okay? When you come and you take her out because of Arusa, what do you give her? A higher punishment. What's a higher punishment? Serefa, sekila. So says Rabbi Shimon, 1 second. When you come and you're going to tell me that you have a bat kohen, you took out the bat kohen nesua, from the chenek. And where did you put her? For serifah. Same thing when you're taking her out from the arusa, you're taking her out of the arusa when she's a bat kohen, and you're putting her in serifah because you're going up a level. That's how Rabbi Shimon is learning. That means since whenever you're taking her out, you're bringing her up a level, just like you're taking her out of the regular bat Yisrael and you put her to serifah, so too when you took her out of the regular bat Yisrael arusa, you put her to serifah. And that's a proof that serifah is higher than sekilah.
Rabbi Shimon, the bat kohen.
Zomemim nesua bat kohen. What about the zomemim of the nesua bat kohen? Bichlal zomem nesua bat Yisrael. Zomem arusa bat kohen. Bichlal zomem arusa bat Yisrael. What does that mean? When you have edim zomemim that they testify about a bat kohen. Now she was supposed to get serefah, so they are like a regular zomem bat Yisrael. What do they get? They get chenek. The zomem arusa bat kohen. Right now, what about the arusa bat kohen that she was going to get serefah according to right Rabbi Shimon? Now bichlal zomem arusa bat Yisrael, so they should get sekilah. Meaning here, this is a chidush that comes out according to Rabbi Shimon. Listen carefully, one more time. For us, we were learning makot. So zomem bat kohen. What does zomemim get? No. They get mitah acheret. No lashes. For bat kohen, shezinta. She'en makdimim leota mita lemita acheret. They don't get the same death penalty. They get another death penalty. What is the other death penalty? Chenek. They get the death of the lover, of the boala. So here it comes out when it's a zomen nesua bat kohen, they get chenek, right? Why? Because it's like a regular nesua bat Yisrael. But to do with arusa bat kohen, right? What should they get? They should get sekilah. Why? Because since according to Rabbi Shimon, when she was an arusa bat kohen, she gets serefah. So therefore, when they are the zomemem arusa bat kohen, they should get sekilah, which is one lower down. Okay? Why? Because basically, you're telling the zomemim they get like the regular case. I mean, not because she's a bat kohen, you're going to get a worse punishment. So 1 second. By a nesua, what does she get? Serefah. What do you get? Chenek, like a regular shatish. But by an arusa, what does she get? Sekilah. So therefore, they should also get sekilah. Because basically, that means even though it's an arusa bat kohen and she gets serefah, they should get like a regular arusa bat Yisrael, which is going to be sekilah. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan. Right? Another braita. Ubat ish kohen kitechel is not. When a bat kohen is going to come and she's going to start playing around, fooling around. Yachol afilu chila et Shabbat. What is she going to be mechalel Shabbat? Because it says that Tavia is mechalelet. Kitechel is not. So maybe it's going to be even fooling around being mechalel Shabbat. So she gets serefah. Tamulomar liznot. Liznot is chilulim shebiznut. We're only talking about znut. Znut is promiscuity. It's talking about like immorality. So yachol afilu prunya. What happens if she's not married? I think Tashal does it. What happens if she's not married? A bat kohen. She's not married. Yilo nesua. Ne'emar kanavia v'ne'emar la navia. It says avia and avia. What does that mean? Just like by the Na'ara Murusa, it says avia, so too here it says avia. Just like by Znut, it has to be that she's married, so too here has to be married. Meaning, if you have a bat kohen that's done, she does Znut, you don't kill her, right? You don't, it's only if she's a bat kohen that she's married and she starts doing these things that you kill her. Or eno ela avia, or maybe you're not going to say it's avia, et kol adam, you're coming to exclude everybody else. As kishomer, mechalelet, kol adam, when it says mechalelet, it already says everybody. So what does it mean avia? And just like over there, it says znut im zikat abal, so to znut, meaning it has to be that she's married. Once she's married, then she's mechalelet et avia. Okay? Ima lehalam benara v'yorusa. So he says, 1 second, but there, she's a nara murasa. Yes. It's nara and morasa. So to here, it's nara morasa. Nara v'nesua, or bogera v'yerusa, bogera v'nesua, or afilu izkina minayin tamun lomar, ubat kohen mikol makom. Meaning there's a special deen by the bat kohen, that even if she's not anymore a nara, or she doesn't matter. The bat kohen is a special din that she's always a bat kohen. And if we're not like usually, meaning we learned that it has to be for nara murusa that she's a nara, she has to be morasa, she has to be there. If she's a bogeret, she's already too old. No. By bat kohen is bat kohen mikol makom. Mikol makom means in any circumstance. The bat kohen is a special din that she gets her punishment according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon.